Hi, my name is Steve Plotnick. Today we're going to have a brief discussion on one of the amnesty programs that is available through the IRS known as the Streamlined Offshore Program. Keep in mind this is going to be very brief. We're not going to go into great detail on some of the information. There is basically two kinds of streamlined voluntary programs. One is the Streamlined Domestic Offshore Program, and one is the Streamlined Foreign Offshore Program. They recently introduced these programs. Actually, back in 2014, they were introduced, and they put together these amnesty programs because they felt that there had to be a way or an avenue for individuals that have not been compliant and have been non-willful, not reporting their worldwide income or foreign assets, and they wanted to give you an opportunity to come forward, get into compliance, and these are the two programs that they have offered you. And it really applies to some individual that had unreported foreign worldwide income, and that could be let's say you have a foreign bank account or a foreign brokerage account, as you're receiving dividends or income from that foreign account, you have to report that income on your U.S. tax return. The U.S. has a unique law that any U.S. citizen, green card holder, or resident alien is required by U.S. tax law to report their worldwide income on their tax return, which includes what foreign interest, foreign dividends. If you have a foreign pension coming in, that needs to get reported on your U.S. return. If you have foreign rental property overseas, you need to report that income as well. And if you have like even a business overseas, that will need to get reported as well. Then they have foreign disclosure programs, forms. One of the forms is a FBAR form, which is independent of your tax return, that requires you to report your foreign financial assets on this FBAR form. And then they have some other disclosure forms. One form is a 8938. If your foreign financial accounts, you add them all together, is above a certain threshold of value, you'll also have to report those foreign financial accounts on your tax return on a form 8938 and attach that to your return. That's a disclosure form that you can be heavily penalized for not disclosing each year. And then there are other disclosure forms. If you have received gifts from a foreign person, you have to file that on a form 3520, or if you have a foreign corporation that you have ownership in, you have to disclose that information on a form 5471. And there are several other forms as well that you would have to disclose your foreign assets on. They had, prior to the Streamline program, they also had, and they still have, and they're just recently getting rid of it, they had an offshore boundary disclosure program. That was the only program that was available at one point until 2014 when the Streamline program was introduced. And that was for, right now as that stands, it's for willful violators. If you willfully did not disclose your foreign assets, this is a program you may want to consider. But for 95% of our clients, we go through the Streamlined Offshore Program. We had to submit a few things: non-willful statement. You have to fix and amend your last 3 years' returns, file 6 years of FBARs, and there will be a 5% penalty on your foreign financial assets. The most important aspect of the submission into the Streamline program is demonstrating that you're non-willful. I can't emphasize this enough to our clients that this is the most important document that we're going to have to prepare. We spend a lot of time, energy, and effort preparing this document, demonstrating how they were non-willful. But you have to kind of go back to the very basics and what does the IRS consider non-willful? And I put together on this slide right here their definition. IRS non-willful is their definition is it's due to negligence, inadvertence, or mistake of conduct that is a result of a good faith misunderstanding of the requirements of the law. The taxpayer must provide specific reasons for the failure to report all income, pay all tax, and submit all the required information returns including FBARs. Now, once again, we just mentioned this, is that when we submit the streamlined package, the non-willful certification, we put the most weight on and the most energy, and make sure that this is heavily prepared and have thoroughly documented your reasons. In addition to that, we're going to go back and fix your last 3 tax returns and amend those to report your foreign assets, foreign income, and disclosures. We're going to go back 6 years on your FBARs, and we have to report all your foreign financial accounts on your FBARs. And these not only include bank accounts, financial accounts, they're your retirement accounts, they are brokerage accounts, they are let's say you have a life insurance overseas that has a cash value, that's considered a foreign financial account. And then of course you have to pay a 5% penalty on your foreign financial accounts overseas as part of the penalty. And of course when we amend your returns, if you owe any tax, you're going to have to pay tax on that on top of some calculated interest. Now, that's the domestic streamlined program we just talked about. There's also what's known as the foreign offshore program, which is for foreign individuals. The definition of a foreign person is you look at the last 3 calendar years, and if the individual has lived outside the United States for at least 330 days, any one of the last 3 calendar years, then you can go through this foreign offshore disclosure program, which was really nice because what happens if you qualify for that is you will not be subject to that 5% penalty on your foreign financial assets. So it's a really nice tool. We just have to really, once again, emphasize the non-willful statement. They accept the non-willful statement, and at that point they accept you into the program. There was one program that I have not touched upon as of yet. It's called the Delinquent FBAR Submission Procedures, or it's also called the Delinquent International Information Procedures. And those are for someone that has, basically the first fork in the road is I try to determine if you have any unreportable foreign income. And if you don't, let's say that you don't have any unreportable foreign income, but you have some maybe interest-bearing, non-interest-bearing bank accounts overseas, or you have some foreign financial accounts that aren't receiving any income on a yearly basis, you can go through this procedure known as, once again, as the Delinquent International Informational Procedures. And basically what you have to do is we have to put together a non-willful statement again, and in addition to that we also have to talk about your reasonable causes for non-filing. We submit the informational forms, which would be FBARs or some of those disclosure forms I talked about before, 8938. But we're not going to be reporting any unreportable income through this program. That's how you're able to go through that. And you will not be subject to no penalty. You won't have any penalties involved with that program. But there is one thing that I always tell my clients is that we have to look onto the IRS nasty list. Now what that is that the IRS has composed a list of foreign banks, and you can go to irs.gov and put in foreign financial facilitators in the search bar. They're going to list They're going to list a bunch of banks, and if your bank is not listed in there, you can go through the Streamlined Domestic Offshore Program. If it is listed in there, we have some other options, which I don't want to get into details here, but you could be subject to some higher penalties. So that's very important that you look at that list and make sure your bank is not on that list prior to us submitting or preparing your streamlined program. There are some exceptions to the rules, and they would be in the tax treaty. So if you're I know most of them. I know most the more of the common countries I pretty much have a grasp on the treaties, but there are some penalties that will be exempt from the 5% penalty, and depending on where you live and what some of your income sources are, they could also be exempt from reportable income. That's something that you would have to look into the tax treaty and see if some of that income would be exempt. That's something that we can look into for you as well. So basically, what someone does when they call me is towards the end of the conversation, I just let them know that, you really just have four choices really when it comes really down to it. After you knowingly know that you'd have some reporting to do that you haven't properly reported, you can go into what's called the willful program, or you can go into the non-willful program, which is the streamlined program. Or you could, we get this often. Why can't I just file my current year's tax return and just file my FBAR and then hopefully they don't catch me. We call that a quiet disclosure, and I can assure you that we have picked up clients that have tried to submit it that way. I would say 5 or 6 years ago, that quiet disclosure, was an option, but they are onto this the situation. As a first-time FBAR filer, first time you file an FBAR files a return, and they look at it and they say, well, this person's been in the country for the last 10 years. Why are they filing an FBAR for the first time? Did they have any assets? Or all of a sudden you're reporting an 8938 first time on your tax return. You will get pulled out for an audit, and the fees and the fines and the penalties and even the professional fees are going to be far, far higher than just going through the streamlined program. You got to be very careful with this quiet disclosure. There's a lot at risk. I do not recommend it. I think it's very risky. And then, your last choice, which is the worst choice of them all. Well, I don't know. This quiet disclosure is really not a risky choice too. But you could basically just pretend like you never called us, put your head in the sand, keep moving forward, and not report your foreign financial assets or your foreign income. But keep in mind, if the IRS contacts you first, you will be exempt. You will be not allowed to enter into the amnesty program, and you will be, and if they contact you, it's going to be more of, they're going to be fining and penalize you that are going to be some much higher figures than you could just imagine. So, if you do nothing, you're just basically trying to hide in the woods and put your head in the sand, and hopefully nobody finds you. I really don't recommend that program either. You got to really think about what you should do and what you feel comfortable with. But I'm always biased when someone calls, and 95% of the time I do recommend one or two things, either the streamlined program or the delinquent filing program if they apply, or if they're able to do it. Just to give you a little background on myself, we're a boutique firm. We're just a few employees, and we have keep busy all year round with very little marketing, very little advertising, just keeping and helping people and individuals get in compliance with their foreign assets and their foreign income. So if you have any questions or concerns about your situation, feel free to give us a call. We do not charge for any kind of initial consulting. Everything is free. We're here to help you out and guide you along initially. Thank you. Bye.